Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new season of Self-Publishing Advice podcast, Self-Publishing Advice on Publishing Poetry podcast. Our first one back after the long summer up here in London. And a few changes to the poetry podcast and to poetry things generally around here at the moment. So last season, as those of you who are regular listeners and watchers will know, Dalma and I went through a lot of information about how to self-publish and how things are different for poets these days. And they're almost like dual tracks that poets can take when it comes to publishing. And a lot of poets are still using older methods of submitting to magazines and submitting their poetry to publishers. And we are just we're looking at an alternative path to publication, which is the indie path, and publishing our own work and through social media and various other forms of short publishing for our poetry, building up our readership in that way, and moving on from there when we have enough poems to make chapbooks, and then moving on from there when we have enough poems to make selected poetry, full-on poetry books. And we looked at, all the different ways in which that can happen. And all of those podcasts are there for you all to hear. The season doesn't go away at the end of the season. But at this time out, what we're going to do it slightly differently. So in each episode, I'm going to be interviewing a poet who has taken this way, who has decided to take advantage of social media or some other way to get their poetry out, who's built a following on the various platforms. And today we're going to be talking about what is probably the best known social medium for poets, and that is Instagram. And I am absolutely thrilled to have a fabulous ally member who is going to join us shortly, Phoebe from Portugal, who is not only a poet, she's a meditation teacher, is an author of longer books as well, and of poems, which she has shared. And she's built up a fantastic following on Instagram. I'll let her tell you the startling numbers. And most impressively, she's done it using purely organic methods. And I know she has loads of fantastic tips that she's dying to pass on to you. So that's going to be great. Before we call Phoebe into the session, I just wanted to kind of tell you what to expect over the next number of weeks. So we will be looking at some of the other platforms. Twitter seems to be an obvious platform for poetry, given that it is really the verbal platform of choice. And I know Phoebe has some interesting things to comment on that. But we will be looking for a poet who is doing great things there and bringing them to you to explain how they have managed to do it. We'll also look at Facebook, because Facebook is also being used very successfully in that way. And then we'll get into audio, because audio is made for poets, really, and video also. We'll look at YouTube and SoundCloud and these various other platforms too. So from now to Christmas, we'll be looking talking to different poets about how they've done it. And the way to get most value, I think, from these sessions is to come along with your own questions about your own publishing and share where you're at. The other thing I wanted to just mention before we get stuck into the heart of today's session is Indie Poetry Please. And this is a feature that I run on Instagram, where I am actively looking for great indie poets to share their work, and featuring them on my own account, but also on other people's accounts. And so if you would like to be part of that, there's different levels at which you can partake. But if you follow the hashtag Indie Poetry Please on Instagram, you should find out everything you need to know. And if you have any questions about that, I'll be happy to answer them in this show as well. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to Phoebe Garnsworthy. Phoebe is living in Portugal at the moment. She hails from Australia, and as I said, she's a meditation teacher as well as an author. And hopefully, if I press this little button, she will appear before you. Yes. Hi, Phoebe. I'm so pleased that you're here and we're able to come and talk to us this evening about Instagram and your phenomenal success there. Would you like to tell the people how many followers you have now?
Thank you. I have 227,000.
Yeah, 227,000. So tell us all about it. When did you start your account?
Yes. So I started my account back in 2016. So just over 4 years ago now. And when I started my account, it actually was before I had even launched my books. So I've now self-published 7 books at present, and I started the account about 6 months prior to actually launching the book. So it was originally, I thought of this as my marketing tool to be able to reach my audience, and then it just kind of evolved and expanded quite in ways that I wasn't prepared to. So it's definitely changed a lot since the very beginning stages.
And I think that always happens with social. It guides you, and your readers lead you, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we even get into that, I'm interested that you were so clear. You knew that Instagram was going to be your marketing method. You actually went and started your account before you had a book. I'm always recommending that to new authors. They're always saying to me, I don't need to do any of this. I don't want to think about marketing at the moment because I'm writing my book. And, it's best, I think, to do it the way you did it. So just bring us right back to there and your thinking at that time.
Yes, thank you. So at that point, it was, I knew that I needed to obviously gather my audience, but I just had absolutely no idea where. But of all of the social media platforms that were out there at that time, Instagram was the one that I just got. I understood it. It was very easy to me. I interacted on it a lot. I loved saving other people's photos. I loved creating it like a mood board for me. So that's kind of how I began it at the very beginning. It was actually, my photo album was taking on a life of its own, and I had so many photos that I had captured from Instagram, and I looked at them all and I said, this is a feed in its own. Like, I need to start sharing this. And so I guess that was more the mind frame behind it. I wanted to connect with my readers to find those people that thought the way that I did, that resonated with the kind of movement and feelings and the way that I thought. And so that's, I guess, the core belief that has kept going throughout the whole period. It's just that the photos have changed, and the things that I post are very different now as well.
Sure, but the driving intention, if you like, is the same. And right from the start, you were enjoying yourself. You were actually enjoying that feedback and that connection with other people who were on your wavelength.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it was very interesting. You've met many walks of life on there, but the beautiful thing about social media is you expand across the entire world, and there's no borders. So I got to meet people from all different countries, and it really surprised me, even to this day, that I see my book going to like very, very unusual places around the world, little islands, and it's all because of Instagram. I've managed to actually reach these people. So it's been interesting, yes, to say the least.
Because what we haven't told people yet is you earn a full-time living as a writer from your Instagram account, which is an incredible achievement by any standards. So people who are listening, poets, questions that you have for Phoebe, drop into the chat box. Tell us where you're coming in from. Tell us a little bit about your poetry. And this is your opportunity to find out more about how you can use Instagram to do some of what Phoebe has done. Can I ask you, do you feel that your particular genre goes down particularly well on Instagram? Or, what factors do you think played in, first of all, that made it, I know you will have had your challenges and we'll talk about those in a moment, but what factors played into you being able to grow so fast, so quickly and so organically? No ads. This is what's wonderful.
Thank you. Yes. So I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to being authentic. So you need to be raw, you need to be truthful, and that's the posts that resonate the most with my audience. And I see that, it's not just a matter of putting something out there and hoping that it does well. No, I look at it. I look at the way that it does. I look at the metrics. I look at the audience, who saves it, who shares it, and I interact with them. I look at the comments and I speak to them a lot. So it's not just so there's a lot of careful thinking behind each post. In terms of the way that it has become successful, I think that poetry definitely has an advantage because you are expressing your authenticity and your voice, and that's what people are falling in love with. They're falling in love with the way that you think, the way you use your words. Having said that, I do also write fiction and nonfiction, and I've managed to twine them into my Instagram posts as well in different ways, like through characters and through their thoughts and feelings too. But of it all, the poetry has been the best, and I definitely do best from the poetry because I think it comes from the heart, and that's what Instagram allows you to do. You're allowed to express yourself in that way.
And I just find that sentence absolutely fantastic. The poetry does the best, because in conventional thinking is poetry doesn't sell. People won't buy poetry. People don't buy poetry. What do you say to that?
I think that poetry has its time. I think that there's always going to be someone that resonates with that glimpse into your life. When you're speaking poetry, it's such a raw part of your soul, and everyone loves that. And that's what it is at the end of the day. We want to connect with each other. We want to feel like we're in unity. And so poetry, I think, breaks down those boundaries and it brings us closer together. So I think for that reason, it works. It's always going to work. Poetry is always going to have a place. And especially on Instagram, it allows you to have a voice, and it allows you to find your audience in ways that you didn't think that you could before.
I've had a lot of poets say to me, but if I put my poems up on Instagram, why would anybody buy my book?
Well, if I put what? Sorry, cut out there.
If I freely distribute my poetry on Instagram, then why would anybody buy my book? They've already read the poem. They've had the poem. They don't believe that posting on Instagram can actually convert into book sales. Can you talk a little bit about how that process has worked for you? I mean, you're living proof that they are wrong. So explain how it works for you.
Yes, definitely. I think that, it kind of comes down to the thing, ebooks versus books, and printed books has their mark here. And to be fair, I actually sell more printed books than I do the ebooks, which is, I think, also unusual depending on the person. And so when people see the poetry, they're not going to read 200 poems in a row. They're going to read maybe 3, 4, 5, and then they buy the book straight away. So there's nothing wrong with sharing, all the poems. I think throughout my time, I've probably shared almost every single.
We're losing you. We're losing you a little there. Sorry, your connection's breaking just a little bit there.
It's definitely worth sharing, and that.
Apologies, folks. We're just having a slight technical glitch here. I don't think Phoebe realizes that, or perhaps you can hear her, but I cannot. Yes, she's just ducked out there for a moment. Hi, you're back, I think. Are you? No, you're still frozen.
Again, sorry.
Okay. Hi. I think you're, can we hear you now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I think you're back to us now. Yes. Don't worry. So yes, but I will ask you to say some of that again if you don't mind, because I'm not sure how many people caught it. Yeah, we were just talking about that sort of objection that I come across a lot, where poets will say to me, "If I put my poetry up on Instagram, why would anybody buy the book?" Can you talk a little bit about how that process works for you? Oh dear.
Yes, definitely. It's working. So it comes down to
Sorry, folks, if you can just bear with us. We seem to have an internet issue. If you would like to send through your questions, Phoebe will be back to us in a moment. Hopefully her internet restored. We may stop using video and just go for audio here. But yeah, I think there's some really core things here that we need to think about when it comes to putting our stuff out there, in terms of a sort of an old way of thinking about. Hi, are you back?
yes,
Hi.
I'm so sorry.
Don't don't worry. I know sometimes, yes, that's what you get for living in lovely Portugal. But yes, we'll try, shall we? Third time lucky. I won't ask the question
Yes,
again. You can just answer it.
yes. Okay, so about sharing, people nervous to share too many poems on Instagram. And I think that it comes down to the ebook sales versus printed books. At the end of the day, my audience always wants to have something they can hold. And when it comes to poetry, people almost like printing it out. They like having in front of them that they can look at. They like pulling out the papers and putting them around so that they can always refer to it as well. So for me, I don't think that it's a problem posting, sharing all of your words on Instagram, because when the audience likes what you do, they also want to support you. And that's what it is at the end of the day. We're building loyal customers. And when it comes time for me to launch a product, they're very well aware of my words and the way I talk, that they'll buy it before I've even tried that much in it. But it's time to get to that level of, loyalty and audience, definitely, as well. But the more you share, the more people appreciate it. And even though perhaps, of the audience, obviously not all of them are paying customers, but at the end of the day, they appreciate your work, and then they'll speak it and share it word of mouth. And that's a lot of how my organic growth has happened. It's not just through Instagram, it's through word of mouth. And you can only grow that by sharing as much as you can and as much as you feel comfortable with.
Okay, so talk to us. You mentioned earlier that you looked at your analytics, for want of a better word. So just talk to people a little bit about what is it you look at in the background that tells you whether a post has worked or hasn't worked, and what kind of actions do you take?
Yes, definitely. So on the post, when you post it, you want to know when your best time of day is to post. So Instagram will tell you that through the insights. You can learn what day is the best and what time is the best, and also where around the world your audience actually is. So from that, you can gather the best time of days to post. And once you've learned that, you also monitor when you're posting at that time, is it actually good? Is it working for you? On the back, there's a lot of information for you to use, such as how are people finding your posts? Are they finding it just through their Instagram feed, or are they finding it through explore and search? Or are they also finding it through other people and sharing? So you can see all of these details. So for a post to be successful, you want it to have likes, you want it to have comments and engagement, and ideally you want these posts to be shared, you want them to be saved, and you can also see if people have shared them on their own, and that's helping your growth expand as well. And the most important thing is also for you to engage back with them. So if you see someone posting it and sharing it, you want to write back, you want to say thank you, and this is how you get to build your audience well with that trust and loyalty, which is so important.
Now, all of this sounds very time consuming. I know people are listening to this and saying, well, you know, how does Phoebe do all that and get her writing done as well?
Sorry, it cut out. Could you repeat
You
the
hearing me?
question?
Sure. I'm just saying that this may sound quite time consuming to people, and they may be thinking, you know, how does Phoebe get all that done and also get her writing done? You know, how much time is this taking?
That's a really good question. At the beginning, it took up a lot of time. Now that I've gotten used to it, I understand the statistics. I only check in every day, and maybe once or twice a day. That's all, and I would spend no more than 10 minutes. So at this stage, it's taken time to get to this stage, but I would not spend longer than half an hour on it each day. I would say maximum.
And that will include processing sales, dealing with any issues that arise with purchases or any of that kind of thing as well.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, because Instagram owns Facebook, you can actually access all of this via Facebook, so via the platform. If you're not too much a phone person and you prefer being on the computer, you can reply back to DMs on Facebook, you can like photos, you can engage with your audience through Facebook as well, and that does it through the Instagram platform too.
Great. Now, you spoke a little bit about how things changed for you since you began and now. Tell us what changed and why did you change?
Yes. So at the beginning, well, it changed because my writing style changed and it evolved over time. At the very beginning, my first book was fiction. So when I started the platform, I was expressing mood board for my fiction titles, expressing the fantasy world, so expressing imagery and inspired me. So for the first 6 months, I would say, I launched it about 6 months before I actually brought out my book. I was doing a lot more of other people's posts and other people's images, and that's how I was connecting, because I was actually me. I wasn't confident in my own work. I was my only part of was through the captions. I wasn't brave enough to be posting photos. And then as things progressed and I got more confident with my work, I then did my own quotes. I started to do my own poetry. And it's actually only, funnily enough, this year that I started to even put my face. I never even put a photo of myself on my Instagram account. It was just purely poetry. It was purely, and that was it. But the thing that I've noticed is doing personal posts is that I've resonated and become tight with my audience, and I've become closer with my following. And so I saw an increase in sales when I started to do more personal posts in terms of me personally. And so now I do and I'm always posting a photo of something that I'm working on, because that's getting exciting, or perhaps just something the way that that supports my personal development, which are themes of my book. Everything I is always bringing it back to my books. It's bringing it back to like a call of action, but it's still making sure that the audience can walk away with something for free, because that's what it is at the end of the day. Instagram is a free platform, so we still want to be able to give something for free so that the audience can feel like they're getting. And when it comes time for them to want to support, or when they support, then they're going to do it. They're going to remember, and and you're up there anyway too. So yeah.
Fantastic. And do you find that having this audience and having this platform makes you more productive? I mean, coming back to the time thing, very often people who talk about how much time this stuff takes are not necessarily producing all that much. I know that I found when I opened an Instagram account that I wrote far more poetry than I had before. Was that your experience? Are you hearing me okay?
Sorry.
Maybe if you turned your video off and we just went for sound, is that something you could do? Could you turn off your video? Maybe we'll just go for sound for the rest of the. Speak to me now till I see if we're okay. Can you hear me?
So much better.
Okay, good. Okay, well, let's stick with that then. It's a pity, but better if people can hear and you can hear indeed. So yeah, I was just asking about, does the fact that you have this audience there, does it make you more productive, do you think?
Yes, definitely, because I feel like I need to support them. I need to give them something, I feel like I post every single day, and if I don't post in a day, I feel like I'm letting them down. So I kind of have that we've got that connection where I want to provide something for them that inspires, that brings them joy, that that makes them happy. So if I don't do it, I feel bad, and at the same time, it's important for me to do it because I know that it supports my business and it's supporting growth. So it definitely is a positive thing to have this audience, and being able to ask their opinion and advice. That was another thing with it's not just the post on the grid. You use the Instagram stories as well. You can ask questions with the stories. You can ask for everyone's opinion. It's like having your own personal group, as if it's Facebook group or something like that, where people are very engaged and interactive as well, which is nice.
And do you feel that they have helped you to understand your own value as a writer?
Yes, that's a really interesting question. This is true. It's and I guess it's like I said at the very beginning, I didn't have the confidence or the voice to really put myself out there. But from having that support network, things change, and I feel it makes it easier for the audience to send me messages when they've read my books. They're a lot quicker to write to me. They're a lot quicker to say thank you and to share my work. And so I definitely have a different connection with that audience on that particular platform than anywhere else, really. And I have more feedback and words of encouragement from this particular space, which 100% helps me as a writer, definitely.
That's marvelous. And why do you have any thoughts, Phoebe, on why Instagram has been so popular for poets and why it has, done so well for poets, given that it is a visual platform, really, and say Twitter is the platform of words? Why didn't Twitter take off for poetry in the way that Insta did? What does Insta do that Twitter does not?
Yes, that's true. I think that Instagram particularly, it's an expression of your innermost thoughts and feelings, and because it's visual, it's easier to see someone's branding. It's easier to see someone's personality through Instagram. Whereas for me, Twitter, I find it's more of a conversation starter. It's a back and forth kind of that kind of play interaction. Whereas Instagram, you can reach, you know, thousands of people a lot easily, and you can personally reply to them, and it's a different form of engagement, I find personally. I also think that posting quotes are some point of difference on Instagram, because we're so used to seeing photos, we're so used to seeing imagery, that when there is something that's writing, you know, people want to stop and have a read, and it's a point of difference. So for that reason, it also supports it well on that platform as too, I think.
So it's counterintuitive, but it actually is because it's different. It's that standing out rather than fitting in. That's really interesting. I hadn't heard that one before. How important are the pictures to your work? Is it mainly words? Is it mainly pictures, or is it how much of a balance is there between the imagery and the words?
Yes, for me, I have quite an even balance. But even if I'm posting a photo of an image, the caption is read like an essay. So if I don't have enough time to, no, if my caption is too large to post as an image, I'll then change it and put it with a photo. And because in the caption, you've got a lot more space. And actually, sorry, that's something also with Twitter. You're limited with how many words you can say. So Instagram, you've got more space to express yourself freely. I always find when I try and do Twitter, I'm reached the limit and I can't get past it. So Instagram, you've got a lot more space to be able to do it. And in terms of the imagery versus quotes, when it's a quote, I find more people repost it. So it's definitely positive when you're posting a quote as an image, as opposed to your own personal image. Not that many people share your own personal image that much. You're going to get your quotes shared a lot more.
Interesting. So what are your top tips for authors using Instagram for, to sell books specifically?
Definitely. Number one, 100% is authenticity. You need to be raw. You need to find your own voice. I mean, essentially, as a writer, you have your own brand. So you really need to get very clear on who your brand is. I would even do a customer avatar to understand who your readers are, and, and jot down some things of that. What are their interests? What do they want to hear from you? What do they care about? So you're almost having a bit of a marketing plan, so to speak, for your Instagram. That's number one. The second thing that you can do right now, if you've got an Instagram account, is have a look at your bio. So the few little lines that are underneath your image, where you've got your name, you've got author, and then you've got a bio. This is your time to really express yourself. So you want it as punchy as possible. Think of it like your one sentence line about your book. You want it to be capturing your essence entirely, so that this is the difference between people looking and scrolling down more. There's a lot of tools for you to understand how to use the Instagram. Specifically, you've got IGT TV, so which is videos of Instagram. You've got the stories, you've got the posts, and now they've just done reels. So it's important to experiment with all those different kinds, which might sound a bit overwhelming, but when you start getting used to it, just take on one little bit at a time. And then the last thing is actually really, really, really important, and this has helped me grow, is hashtags. So hashtags are like having your own personal keywords, and it's important for you to pick some hashtags. You're allowed up to 30, so I would use 30. I would alternate them. Don't just have one set of hashtags. Always mix it up. And you want these hashtags to be popular, but not too popular. And you want them to be quite specific. So if you write poetry, an example of that is poetry lovers or something like that. And I think that maybe would only have, you wouldn't want more than a few 100,000 posts of that. Definitely not up in the millions of a hashtag. You want it as low as possible, because this is how people will find you.
So that's very interesting. I think, again, it's counterintuitive. People tend to do the hashtag that has the most followers. Why not? Why not? Why not go where there are most people?
Sorry, you cut out then. What was the question?
Question was, most people, when they think about hashtags and they look at the hashtag and they see the one that has the most following, that's the one they're inclined to include. Why would you not do that? Why do you go for a lower one rather than a higher following?
Yes, so it's important because the thing is, when you're going for a higher following, it is going to get lost immediately. You've got to think that on Instagram, there are probably millions of posts going every day. I mean, there's millions of users, but say there's a few 100,000 posts minimum. So if you are posting something that is reposted a lot, within seconds, you won't even be able to find it on the search. It will be disappeared amidst all of the other posts. So that's why you want it to be in a smaller niche so that it doesn't matter in a few months' time, in a year time, people could still find your posts. And that's the beauty of it. If you're able to find some really good hashtags, and when you know your niche, your specific genres, and some words that the audience that loves those genres are searching for, you'll be able to come up and you can interact. And that's also a way for you to find other authors as well. It's not just about you on your own. It's very good for you to connect with other authors that are on Instagram. Think of it like you're doing newsletter swaps, or you're sharing each other's work. We're always building each other up because we have unique voices. So by looking, if you find someone's post that you really resonate with, you share it through your own Instagram stories. It doesn't necessarily have to be on your grid, but through the Instagram stories, you tag that author. The next thing you know, you've started a conversation and you share. You have this mutual sharing. I always try and share if someone's posted something of mine, and you've got that interaction going, which helps build your following as well, because you're then expanding to other audiences that are resonating with the kind of work that you write.
We have a question for you here. Ezzadine is asking how long it took you to acquire such a number of followers, and that was actually answered at the start. It's been 4 years. But the next question is interesting. Has it ever come to your mind that you're wasting your time? Do you ever get fed up with it, or bored?
Oh, that's a good one. No, so it's, yes, as you said, so it's taken 4 years. I don't get fed up with it because it is the platform I understand, and I personally use it as well. I enjoy looking at it. I am now at a stage where I'm looking at hiring an assistant to help support and to do the work for me, because it is so important. I mean, it's a big part of my income. So it's almost like if I don't post, I'm not making money. So I need to, I have to do it. It's not it's not really a question of stopping doing it. This is a big part of my business. So I don't stop.
So you'll be concentrating on the writing, and an assistant will do the administrative side of things.
Yeah, sorry, you cut out then.
No, don't worry. I was just commenting to say that you're taking the time now with such a large following to concentrate on the writing, and then your assistant will look after the administrative side of things, I'm assuming.
Yes, that's exactly right. But the thing that's actually interesting as well, like with what I post, it's I'm not just posting content that I finished. I will brainstorm ideas. It also inspires me. The way that I write, every now and again I'll be inspired and something will come through to me, and I write my poetry in a stream of consciousness style of fashion. So if I'm all of a sudden typing away on my phone and then I share that, and then by the end of it, I actually have a lot of content to then move into publishing a book. So it works both ways. I create the original pieces in the Instagram first, and then it goes into the published book, and then I publish the book, and then I share those pieces. So it kind of goes full circle for me, which is interesting. Yes.
A very nice circle. So, yeah, before we leave, you mentioned posts, stories, and reels. Can you give us some ideas? First of all, can you explain what each of those three things are? We begin with posts. And can you give an example of ways in which you use it, or you've seen, that particular feature on Instagram used well? Reels is brand new. We'll talk about that last, but just posts first of all. This is the kind of what you see when you go onto somebody's profile. What exactly is a post on Instagram?
Yes. So a post on Instagram, you need to own it. This is also very important. You have to also be very careful with copyright and making sure that the post that you are posting you own. And the posts on Instagram are either photo, or of course you've perhaps created the quote, and it's something that stays on your profile on the cover, and it's there until you decide to delete it, and it can be there for years. And then that's what you're using to express yourself. And this gets the largest viewing of audience. This is always going to be expanded into the Explorer, which means someone could just be looking on Instagram, not even following you, and your post can come up. If it's got a good engagement, if there's a lot of likes and comments, someone's going to find you organically through that. And this is the post that people share. Now, the other three tools have come out as a way for Instagram to stay really in the latest of technology. The most recent one is Reels. So I'll talk about that first, because what's really interesting with Reels, it's something to get on top of, because right as of now, it appears that it is not affected by the algorithm. So it is very organic in terms of when you post a reel, it is getting posted and everyone is seeing it. And this is very new. I think this is because they've just started to try it out. The reels are in competition with TikTok. It's 15 seconds, and you just do a video or a photo. It is only video, and you can write on it. You can share however you wish. For reels, for me, I share more personal videos. I've done a small reel of me reading before, and that's been popular as well. And then the other IGTV, which is Instagram TV, which is in direct competition with YouTube. So the way Instagram TV works is that you can record up to an hour, and this allows people to stay engaged on the platform for longer. With Instagram TV, it's not known if the hashtags make a difference with that, but it is very good for your audience to get a more personal glimpse of you. So on my Instagram TV, I'll usually speak for maybe 10-15 minutes about a subject that I find interesting, or it will be, I've read excerpts of my book, I've done meditations on it. It's a personal, longer glimpse into my life, essentially. And then the last one, which is the Instagram stories, which are the little things that come up around your profile. There's a little light around your profile to say that you've updated something. And these only last for 24 hours. So when you do an Instagram story, it is it only goes in 5 or 10 seconds, I think, and then you keep adding to it, and you can do it throughout the whole day. So that's just a real personal glimpse into your life. And with the Instagram stories, there's a lot more interactions you can do. You can do yes and no, and ask the audience for yes and no. You can get them to tell you what they need to know. You've got a little Q&A. You can really interact with your audience in ways where they can be as involved with you or not. And the reason why it does well with the audience is because it can also essentially be anonymous to the rest of the users. So, on the post, when people comment, everyone can read your comments. But on the IG, Instagram stories, people can comment, and only me can see that. No one else can see that. So you kind of have you get a lot more answers and a lot more truthful speaking as well through those different areas.
Lovely.
And yeah, and I think that they're all.
Yeah, lots of great ideas there. No shortage of inspiration, Phoebe. Thank you. Just one final question from Ezadine. I know that Charles Harvey was trying to send questions, but unfortunately we can't see them. So I just have a final question from Ezadine again, and asking, did you start this as a business? And I think at the beginning you pretty much said that you did. But another interesting question, were you sure you would succeed?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that comes down to just an author mind frame as it is of the self-publishing world. Um, when I started it, I I was working half on the side, so I was definitely doing this as my passion project, but with the determination and hope that it would turn into a full-time position. And then over the years, as I saw things change, as I changed my business, as I looked into how I could expand my business, it came into my full-time job, and it's definitely always been at the core of my heart that this is what I wanted to do and that this is what I was going to do, and I wasn't going to stop until I succeeded at it. So I think that comes down to, at the end, for any self-publishing author that's starting out, that's wondering whether they should or not, if you can't imagine doing nothing else, then this is what you have to do, and you have to just keep going because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's just never giving up, really.
Fantastic, so true. And finally, what are the plans for the future? What's coming up?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, just continuing to expand. I'm actually looking at really getting myself across all of the social media platforms. I do touch on them lightly, but now I am really expanding those fingers across every area because I think it's such a wonderful source of free marketing. And like I mentioned, I've never paid for advertising or ads on any of the platforms, not even Amazon. So it's really been a strong tool in my business, and I know that it can work. And so if I can make this work with Instagram, I don't see why I can't make it work with all the other platforms that exist out there. So it's just a matter of figuring out the content and changing the content and making it work to each audience.
Fantastic, because Karen has come in with the last question saying, have algorithm changes affected your following? And, you know, a lot of people say to me, you cannot accumulate an organic following now. What would you say to that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that that's not true. I think that you can definitely always create an organic following purely from the fact that you have you have an authentic, unique voice. So it's kind of like looking at, you know, the bookstore and saying there's too many authors, I'm not going to put my book out there. But at the end of the day, what you have is completely unique. You have your own gift. And the only way to share it with other people is to put it out there. So find the platform that works for you, make sure that you understand it, that you enjoy using it, and then the rest kind of comes easy. You know, you get into practice and get into a healthy habit with it, and you'll see it grow. I do not doubt that it's not going to grow, but at the end of the day, it takes persistence, and you have to understand the platform and, you know, and take advantage of the tools that it offers you, because there are some really good free tools too.
There's no doubt about that. And did you at any point find that the algorithm came in and kind of took the wind out of your sails and you had to adjust in some way, or not? You just ignored it and just carried on doing what you're doing?
Definitely, I hate that that the electrogram changed. It definitely impacted everything. But once again, you know, everyone's in that same boat. We're all trying to move through it, and it encourages you to think outside the box. You know, and this also is what keeps you interested in it, is because you're constantly learning and making different ways to create content and to become inspired. So it's you know, of these 4 years, there's been ups and downs, of course, like in any business. But at the end of the day, you know, if ever I was feeling a bit down, I'm looking through old posts, I'm reading comments, I'm cheering myself back on. You know, you just get back up and you just keep going at it, and know that everything's going to align at some point.
Phoebe, you have a fantastic attitude. You definitely have the indie attitude that is necessary for success, and we are so proud of your success, and well done. So thank you so much for coming in to talk to us this evening about how to sell books on Instagram, and we will be keeping an eye on you. Tell people where they can follow you and where they can find your work.
Thank you. Yes. So obviously on Instagram, my handle is at lost_nowhere. And also through my website, phoebegarnsworthy.com. And you can feel free to send me a message. I'm always open to helping out fellow authors. And and if you have any questions, I'm always there.
That's fantastic. Thanks again. And see you on Instagram. Happy writing, everyone. Happy publishing. See you next time. Bye-bye.